everyone. Welcome to Adopts a Gals podcast.
My name is Hawa Zabel.
My name is Famata Warfield. On today's episode, it's going to be a little more serious.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be touching on some heavy topics. And it's about life in the orphanage and how we grew up and some of the things that we experienced. And so, Hawa, I'm going to kick it off to you and have you start.
Okay. Yeah, this is a very heavy topic because, as most of you know, being in an orphanage is definitely not the dream of any little kid, any child, especially an orphanage where it's in a war-torn zone, which is where we were raised and born out of. So I left my family's home, my tribe, with my birth mom, and she put me in the orphanage when I was 5 years old. And I was there for about 3 years. And within the time in the orphanage, I went through a bunch of just, I guess, series of unfortunate events. I think that's what I would call it, including abuse, malnutrition, bullying. There's some good things that happen, of course, but for the most part, most of my memory is filled with pain and trauma. Pain and trauma. And the first thing I'll touch on is the staff members. So, you know, you got to remember that, or you got to know as a viewer, you know, within the war, with the war going on, everyone is in pain, everyone is suffering. So people have become a little bit immune to pain, especially the pain of little kids. And so the staff at the orphanage, they really did not care about the kids. They just came in and really just did enough to get a paycheck and also to have a place to lay their head and eat food, right? But they really didn't care about us. They didn't care about our well-being. They were very abusive. And when I talk about abusive, I'm talking about physical and emotional abuse. One memory that's really stuck and imprinted in my head is during school time. So the students were basically separated by classrooms based on like the age group. We didn't really have a lot of grades. It was more so age group. And I remember I was with the older age group, I think because I was doing really well in my studies or something. So I got placed into the older age group for a short period of time. And I remember, like, because I was younger, I didn't really know as much as the older kids. I remember not knowing some of the answers. And I remember our teacher, I forget his name, but he was like this big African dude. And he was like kind of bipolar because on one end he could be really nice and then he could be really abusive and mean. Do you remember him? He was kind of lighter skinned. He was light, medium skin.
Oh my gosh, yes I do. I remember him.
And he always had those stupid ass glasses on his forehead.
Oh
I'm sorry, but he does not really, you know, he's not really that great of a person. I remember I got some answers wrong. And so he decided that the best way to teach me and also to teach the rest of the other students was to use me as like a way to like make a case, an example. So he had me go up to the classroom, the front of the classroom, and he had two boys. One of them like grabbed my arms and then the other one grabbed my feet. So I'm like laid parallel or horizontal in the air and they're holding me up and he has this whip and he's just like whipping me because I got an answer wrong. So this is not like American whipping where you just like whip or get a belt out. This is like
a spanking.
This is like literal abuse. You could see the marks on my skin like building up after each mark, after each spanking.
And the stick that they used to beat us with, those were like, I can't even describe them. They're like these long sticks that are very firm. And they don't break.
They never break.
They hit the skin. They don't bend.
They hurt so bad.
And they leave welts.
it's just like, it's so disgusting, the kind of abuse that they had with us. And also, another big thing that happened in the orphanage is there was a lot of sexual abuse.
Yep.
A lot of sexual abuse with the children, actually. I don't really remember a lot of any sexual abuse from staff.
No.
From me, anyways.
Yeah. The sexual abuse was from the kids, and it was one boy. He was much older than the rest of us, and the staff would leave him in charge of the kids a lot.
Because he was the oldest one.
Yes. And so he would do things where he would pair up couples. He'd pair up couples and force us to do sexual things to each other. Yeah. And I really think the staff was aware of it.
They knew it was happening.
They didn't do anything about it. And it's funny how when we talk about Mommy Deanna and how back then we just adored her and we were so like, oh my gosh, she was so great. But now being an adult and thinking about all this abuse that we went through, and it's like, she was, and it's like, there was no way. She had to have known
that there was this amount of abuse that was happening.
And she was she was letting this happen. And it's like, well, I don't like her anymore at all, because it's like, now I have to hold her accountable, because there's no way. There's no way that she didn't know the abuse that we were going through.
Yeah. And the crazy part about it, Fatmata, is that the physical abuse that was happening, so like she said, it was like by this one boy. I'm not going to say his name.
No.
But he actually, I found out when I came to America that he is a family relative of mine. He's my cousin.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me.
I found out he was my cousin. And the wild part about it all is that this boy, before he came into the orphanage, he was starving. Both his parents had passed away. He was just on the streets, just starving. And I remember my birth mom seeing him every single day, and she was like, we need to help this boy out. We need to help him. We need to help him go to the orphanage. So she fought. My birth mom fought for him to be in the orphanage.
Oh, really?
She brought him in, and all of that, made a case for him. And I remember when my birth mom would be visiting the orphanage, every single visit, she would always ask, how is he doing? How is this boy doing? I'd be like, because I didn't know I was related to him back then. I would be like, why do you keep asking about this boy? But I never told her about the abuse, because, you know, we're told not to tell anybody, right? Like, that's rule number one for abuse. And, you know, the manipulators, they prey on the victims. They tell the victims not to tell anybody. So I would always ask her, like, well, why do you even care? Like, he's fine. Like, I don't really like him that much anyways. And then come to find out as an adult that he's actually my cousin. Yeah. You know, it's just like...
Yeah. And to be honest, we don't try to... now that we've gone through therapy and we understand why people inflict pain on other people, it's because they've also experienced pain themselves. So I'm not excusing his behavior, but also he was also a child that also went through abuse himself, and he was inflicting it on us.
It was like real bad, and it was like on a weekly basis. So he would basically get all the boys to gather around. This was at nighttime when all the girls would be going to sleep. We knew it would happen at least once a week. We just didn't know what day. And he would gather all the boys and he would tell them to all go into the girls' rooms and just terrorize, because all the girls, we shared rooms, we had bunk beds, and he would just tell them, he would basically open the door, they would all run in and terrorize all the girls. Some of the girls would be hiding underneath the bunk beds, trying to go upstairs. And so all the girls were always found, right? And so then the boys would like do sexual acts on the girls and be forced. And I remember there was one, TJ, speaking of TJ. So there was a boy in the orphanage who loved and adored me. This boy, I think he was on the spectrum. And this boy loved and adored me so much at such a young age. And he would like do all these like cute little things, like start playing music for me. He would always get me like gifts or give me extra food. He would get kids to like circle around and start singing around me.
Yeah, we used to.
And I was so embarrassed.
On a lighter topic, it's always like Hawa and TJ. We used to tease them because TJ loved her. Wherever she went, TJ was right there, following her around, loving her. And you would just like, leave me alone. And I was so annoyed with him.
So annoyed with him. I was so mean to him. I'd be like, leave me alone, TJ. But I remember, you know, like I said, he was more on the spectrum. But everyone in the orphanage loved him. He was like the brother for everybody. And I remember the boy who would, you know, make other boys abuse the girls sexually. I remember he was well aware that TJ was into me, so he forced TJ to come on to me. Yeah. When I was, you know. Yeah. And I don't think TJ he couldn't do it. He was like, he kind of like chickened out. He was like, I can't, like, but I remember that boy like forcing him and telling him, you have to do it. Like, you have to. And obviously this little boy was going through a lot of pain and didn't have any family and whatnot. But, you know, the staff knew all of this stuff was going on. They would hear all the girls yelling downstairs. Yeah. And whenever I would try to go upstairs, they'd be like, go back down. They would always tell us to go back down.
Yeah. Yeah, try to tell them and talk to them, and the staff just didn't care. And it's just also another thing that they would used to do, like our parents, who were waiting to take their kids to the States, they always sent gifts. Oh, yeah. They always send us gifts, teddy bears, different things for us to have. And I remember coming to the States, or my mom visiting me, when she, you know, both of our parents coming to visit us and coming to the States. And they asked me, they're like, what happened to that, you know, teddy bear, or this thing the thing that we sent you, that other thing. And I'm like, what thing? Yeah. And she's like, I sent you all this stuff. You didn't get any of it? And like, no. And then later on, we realized that one of the directors of the orphanage, he would take all the stuff that was sent to us to have, he would take it home to his kids. He had a little girl who was so spoiled. He would give all the kids, the gifts to her. And she would just walk around that orphanage knowing she could just do whatever. Yeah. And she got all of our gifts and things like that. And then sometimes with all the gifts that we had, remember they used to have it in a room. Yeah, they had it in the room. It was packed. It was packed, yeah. It was packed of gifts that we got from our parents. Yeah. And not just us, but like all the kids. Yeah, like the other adopted. Yes, the other kids. And they would just keep it there, and they wouldn't let us play with them. They would not let us play with them. They would not. They would just. And the only time they let us play with them is when Mommy Diana, or like we had somebody visiting, like a family coming. Then visit, they would pull out the gifts. Yeah, they would make us sit and act like, oh, they play with them all the time. They always play with the toys. They always have them. Thank you for this. They're so grateful. And of course, us kids, we weren't gonna say anything because we didn't want to get in trouble. Because after the guests leave, we're gonna get beat. We're gonna get our butt whooped. Yeah, if you said anything. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, I think definitely the directors, the admin of the orphanage were very corrupt. They weren't really to be trusted with kids. I don't know how, you know, I mean, for them it was really just business and money. You know, that was, I think, the end goal. And, you know, adoption is a big business, you know, and you know, if you can make little investment in the kids, pay as little as you can, and get a lot of money for just them getting adopted. And it just showed, like, even with like food, for example, I remember we didn't even have food. It's like, how is it that we're getting adopted, these white family members or these white parents, they're gonna have to pay a lot of money, but how is it that I'm malnourished and starving in an orphanage? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we don't even have enough food for breakfast or lunch or dinner. Sometimes it's just like one meal that we get. Exactly, yeah. And then going back to when you say adoption is a big thing, or money-wise, it's not necessarily that our parents bought us or anything like that. So we don't want to make it seem like it was a trafficking in that area. What we're talking about is that they would send money to an orphanage for us to be taking care of medical bills, food, and all the other stuff, and they would pocket most of it. So that's why a lot of times we didn't see many meals. We should have been eating at least 3 meals a day with all the money and support they were sending, because they want their kids to be taken care of, and also the other kids at the center. Yeah. You know, it wasn't just they were just sending it just for their kids. They want the other kids to be well, so they would just take that money and pocket a large chunk and then save a little bit for us. So that was, you know, I remember one time, like, it was just like breakfast time, and everyone was like eating, I don't remember what we were eating, some kind of like something similar to like oatmeal, like some kind of cereal in the morning. And I remember there wasn't any left over for me. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I remember one of the kids, like, she didn't like hers. She ate some, and then like she threw up some of it. And I remember like she gave it to me, and like I ate some of it. What? Yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh my gosh, because you were so hungry. I was so hungry. Like they didn't have any food,
And, you know, but that was kind of, it was disgusting. I didn't eat all of it because I was like, oh, this is gross. But it was like really, really bad in the orphanage. Like the staff just did not care. We couldn't go to the staff. We couldn't go to anybody. That's why it was so important for us to get adopted, because that really was our ticket out of all of the abuse. I was a saving grace. So, and then, you know, another thing that happened, you know, the reason why I'm talking more is because I was in the orphanage for a longer period of time, for about like 3 years. Fatmata, she was just there for like 10 months. So you were lucky.
Yeah, I was lucky. Know? Yeah, I was very lucky in that regard, where I didn't experience as much trauma and pain than like you did.
I also remember, again, with the staff, like, so the thing is, when I went to the orphanage, I was supposed to get adopted shortly after I arrived to the orphanage. I was supposed to get adopted when I was like 5 years old. I ended up getting adopted when I was 8, but because of like political reasons, a lot of paperwork during the time, there was a lot of child theft that was going on through adoption. And so the government was becoming a bit more restrictive, having more protocols when it comes to, like, stricter protocols when it comes to adoption. So it took about 3 years for me to actually physically get adopted after my adopted parents had made a decision they wanted to adopt me. But I didn't know any of this. None of the staff members told me that, you know, hey, this is going on in the back end. And so the whole time I was like, I was told I was going to get adopted, but then I didn't actually get adopted. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, have they decided they don't want me anymore? And I remember the staff, they were so disrespectful, and they were like, oh, like, they don't want to adopt you anymore because you're ugly. Like, they literally told me that. And
oh my God.
Grown men, grown women, staff members were telling like a 5-year-old, like, you're ugly, that's why. And I literally started to believe that, because I'm like, oh, am I not cute enough? And you know, because with adoption, you're literally just seeing pictures, you know, the parents who are going to adopt, and from America, like in America, they're just seeing pictures and galleries of these kids, unless if they choose to go in person. But most of the time, their first point of contact with these kids is through like pictures. So
and a lot of times when they come to take you home, that's like your first time. Sometimes, depending on what was happening, depending on the kid that's being adopted, that's their first time coming and then taking you. That's your first meeting, becoming family, and then you just take off. And I also remember that I think there was definitely some shady stuff that the directors of the orphanage were doing, where some of it, there was some kids that were being trafficked. Yeah,
really.
There was some kids that were being trafficked, and there was a lot of things that, you know,
I did not know
things.
that.
Things that were found out and recovered. And to be honest, when was the last time we checked to see if the orphanage is still up and running?
No, it's not.
It's not. That's right.
It's no longer.
Because I knew it wasn't. I knew like there was some investigation, something was happening where they got shut down because they were doing a lot of shit.
They got shut down. I remember when I went back to Sierra Leone to visit in 2017, I went to the physical location of the orphanage, and I was expecting it to look, you know, but when I went there, everything had changed. The building itself was still there, but everything has changed. I didn't get the chance to go inside because it was new property owners, and they, you know, for privacy reasons, they didn't want me to go in. But it was a very surreal feeling. But they told me, they're like, no, the orphanage is no longer here, hasn't been here for a long time.
How was that? Like, can you get more into depth? How did that feel, being there, knowing all the stuff that happened in that? How was that?
I think it was a surreal feeling for sure, but I think I had done so much like work when it comes to like trauma, a lot of therapy, a lot of just like self-help work that I didn't like get. I mean, I got emotional, of course, but it wasn't to a point where I felt like trapped or I just was bawling or anything like that. For me, it was just a remembrance of a really painful time during my life when I was young, and just acknowledging where I came from and how far I've come. You know what I mean? It was actually, I didn't see it from a space of like a negative light. It was like, wow, like I actually survived this. It was like a survival type of feeling. Like, I survived this. I made it out of here, and I'm coming back. I'm grown. I'm beautiful. I've, you know, made something of myself. So it was more so of an empowering feeling, I think.
I love that. I'm happy that you were able to experience that in that like full circle moment. It was just like, talking about some of this stuff can be so heavy where sometimes you feel like you're there almost. Like it's so triggering.
I can definitely
So
visualize the
triggering.
orphanage and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I just remember always sleeping on cold floors. Remember that?
Oh my gosh, all the floors were cold.
Cold.
We'll post
No.
a picture. Actually, I just pulled up some pictures of like what our sleeping arrangements look like, and we'll post more pictures of the orphanage as well, so people can see what we're talking about. Because from, you know, sitting in your comfortable house on the couch, like it probably sounds like, you know, kind of unimaginable, but when you put pictures to the story itself, you'll be able to really see, you know, what we're talking about.
Yeah. And it's crazy also looking at the pictures, because I haven't seen the pictures in so long, and it's just like, wow, it was that bad, huh?
It was that bad,
and it's been so long, and sometimes things fade.
Right, and when like, you're going through it, it doesn't seem bad. It's normal.
Yeah,
it's normal.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, this is what happens. You just, because that's what we're taught. It happens. You just accept it. You just accept it. Yeah. But look at those photos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we actually survived that, and we came out on the other end. And it's just, my heart goes out to the kids that, some of them that didn't get adopted.
I know.
Some of the kids that didn't get adopted, who were there longer than both you and I, even combined.
There's some kids who were definitely there longer than I was.
That was there. And also what the orphanage does, if a kid reaches a certain age and they're no longer deemed as adoptable, they will literally just kick them out on their own, on the street. Go back to their families.
There's not a lot of resources for these kids after they leave the orphanage. You're left to figure it out for yourself.
For so long, you were being taken care of. Your life was, you know, like this. And then it's like, well, you're on your own now. And that was just thinking about them, and it makes me feel so much more grateful.
Parents.
They don't have.
Most of those
kids. Parents.
Most of those kids, they don't have any parents at all whatsoever, and I think with being adopted, you have to get permission from at least one parent. Because in Sierra Leone, you would be considered an orphan if at least your father was maybe passed away. So if it's just you and your mom, then you'd be considered an orphan. And in some cases, if your parents really cannot take care of you, then you would go to an orphanage, right? But some of these kids, they don't even have either parents alive, so they don't even have the option to get adopted because you have to get signed off from at least one parent. So it's like they're just really out here in the street, just fending for themselves. And
it makes me think of TJ. Like, as much as we clowned him a little bit,
we all loved him.
We all loved him. He was such a sweet boy.
He was,
and he definitely was reaching that age.
Yeah,
he was no longer adoptable. He was so sweet.
Yeah, I wonder where he is now. He was just like a ball of sunshine, and you know, very, very sweet to everybody.
It makes you just talking about it makes us, you know, thankful to our parents, and how much they really went to bat in bringing us here and giving us this opportunity where other kids did not have that. So we are so grateful for that, and that we didn't experience being kicked out.
Yeah, because if we were, you know, still in Sierra Leone right now, we'd probably be having like 20 kids, gotten married off to some old man, or you know, like 5 times our age, or just like sick, because there's just so much poverty over there. Like the health system is non-existent. You know, they're what they consider a hospital, like in America, would not be. It's not a good environment. Not a sanitary environment whatsoever. So, you know, of course, we're both very, very grateful that we did get the opportunity and chance to come to America.
And it reminds me of, before I came to the States, part of the reason why my parents decided to give me up is because I was really sick. And again, they've lost a lot of kids from like disease, and I had malaria and other parasites and things, and I'm pretty sure I would have died. I don't even think I would still be alive. I would have definitely died. And because when I came to the States, I was in and out of the hospital for long periods of time, in and out. But if I would have survived, my parents had made this arranged marriage. I was telling you about this earlier. They had made this arranged marriage for me, where where we live, the village is always like a chief, basically like the president or mayor of the village. And he would basically, was creepy, old man, creepy, looking at young girls and deciding which one he wants to take as his wife when they reach a certain age.
Like 12 years
12 years old.
Yeah.
So he was, I was basically betrothed to this man. And my dad heard about that. And my family, if I would have gotten married to him, my family would have been set for life.
Yeah.
And so my mom was fighting for that. And then my dad found that about it. He's like, I don't want that for my kid. I don't want that for my child. And so that also played a part into him putting me in the orphanage and saying, no, I want a better life for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank God that your father decided to make that decision, you know, because I think the moms, you know, because they just want their family to be secure. They want their kids to be taken care of, especially because most kids pass away like flies in Sierra Leone, like very, very quick, and very young, and over small, minute things that could be fixed, or, you know, there's medicine for it in America, right? But out there, it's like if you get malaria, there's a 50% chance you might not make it, you know? So I'm very grateful that your father, you know, decided to make that decision.
And at that time, I had a baby brother. I was about 5 years old, and he was a baby, and he was so tiny, and my parents used to make me take care of him a lot, and I resented him because I was a kid and I wanted to just play. And he was so sweet, but he was so sick. And I remember just one day we put him to sleep, and we went to go wake him up, and he had passed away in his sleep. And we got back to my mom was in Tombo. Like I was saying in the first video, we switched from going to Tombo to another part of where our family lived, and we went back to Tombo, and we told my mom, it's like, oh, we lost our baby brother. And she was just like, I know. And I'm like, how do you know? And she's like, I had a dream that he was sitting on top of the roof and he was saying goodbye. And now that I think about it, I appreciate my birth mom so much, because she's lost so many kids. And that's a lot of families in Sierra Leone, a lot of our parents.
So many,
they've lost so many kids due to things that are so easy to fix. And the medicine that we have here.
So easy. It's
so
easy. Sad.
But I think about him every now and then, and I hope he's okay. And I'd like to think he's in heaven. And that's where he's at. And he was just a baby. And my parents saw that. They're like, okay, well, Famata's next. We got to get her out of here.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that your mom ended up doing that, you know, and not thinking just so small and thinking, oh, just going to the chief. Because even if you went to the chief, like, it doesn't even matter, because the hospital over there is like, again, it's not high quality. It's not sanitary, you know, it's not clean. So God knows what would have happened.
Exactly.
Know? So I'm grateful for your mom and your dad for making that decision.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for my birth mom and my adoptive parents for ultimately making that decision as well, you know, even though it wasn't easy for both parties.
At all. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's definitely very hard.
I'm sorry, babe.
It's okay. It's okay. I feel like, I don't know, like, I still get very emotional about it. Yeah.
So I never met any of my siblings that passed away. I had one older brother who ended up passing away, but he passed away when I was in America, and I never met him. Yeah. So I only have one sibling that's alive right now, my brother, and I visited him in Sierra Leone. It was such a beautiful moment to meet him, and just like having an older brother. He's just so protective of me. We still talk to this day. Yeah. He'll probably watch this video, and I love him, and he always tells me I need to talk to him more. But
my brother is the same. I have a sister and both of them are older. I have a sister and a brother that I still talk to, and my brother's just as protective. He can call me, talk to me.
I was like, when I went to Sierra Leone, I was wearing like a bikini, just being an American. Oh no, baby, you don't do that in Sierra Leone.
No, he got you together real quick.
He wasn't
having it.
He wasn't having it. But it was just sweet, like having that, you know, brother, and it's like, those are the moments that we miss when we're a little small kid. You know, those bonding moments like with our biological like family. You know, those are the most important moments in our lives when we're young, being able to build that like feeling of having people who care.
And
about
there's
us,
a difference.
You know?
There's a difference in being with your biological family.
There definitely is a huge difference. So I want to talk about some of the fun things that happen at the orphanage. So you want to start telling us about the movies that we watched?
The movies. So every now and then they would let us watch movies. And one of the movies that we watched a lot was Monkey Trouble.
Monkey Trouble.
I don't know if anybody has seen that. I still haven't watched it with my new eyes, being in America. Like, I want to watch it again. You said you watched it again, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I did. So basically, it's like about this girl. It's an American movie. But it's about this little girl. She's like maybe like 12, 13, and there's somehow she gets mixed up with this monkey. She has this monkey who is like a troublemaker. He's like a very smart monkey. This monkey is like, he's gotten mixed up with some crazy, dirty, like criminal or drug dealer.
And he was stealing watches. He was stealing watches, jewelry.
He just caused a lot of trouble. And we loved, like, I don't know what it was. Like, I always loved like slapstick type of films and like, you know, those type of things. He was like a very funny monkey, and
it reminds me. Remember the monkey we had at the orphanage?
Oh yeah, we had
a pet monkey at the orphanage.
Yeah,
but he was vicious. He didn't want to play. He was vicious.
He was kind of mean. And he would always like leave. Yeah, but then he would always come back. Do you remember that?
I thought they had him chained up. There's times that
they did, but sometimes he would somehow leave. Escape. He would escape, and then he would come back.
I get it. I don't know why they had him chained up. Like, he just wanted to be free. You know? I get it. I would try to escape too.
Another thing, like, we both kind of started talking about was songs that we used to like hear and listen to. One of them, which is like so random, but it's Shania Twain. The song, it's like the Still I Wanna.
You're like, the one I love too.
The only one I need to. So
that was the song.
That song is stuck in my head, and I came to America and I'm like, why do I know this song? And I was like, oh, because they played it like every day in the orphanage. For us
to sing along and dance and
love that song still to this day.
Same.
It's a cute song.
Yeah, and going back to the movies, I remember when my parents came to see us, like I think the first time, they brought us with them to the hotel that they were staying. And then they put on a movie, and the first movie that I watched with them was Shrek.
Oh,
and I was just like, and so this day I love Shrek for a deeper reason. I have a deeper meaning with that movie.
Like sentimental.
Sentimental. Yeah. And I remember just loving Shrek. And then when we came to the States, that's all I wanted to watch was Shrek.
Oh. That's cute. I love it. Yeah. So obviously, you know, there's some good memories from the orphanage. You know, obviously the kids, we enjoyed each other. We always kept each other entertained. Our country was very beautiful, beautiful waters, beautiful beaches.
The greenery.
So much amazing mountains. Food when we actually got the chance to eat the food.
Yeah.
But
when they actually gave us food.
When they actually fed us. And, you know, of course, there was a lot of abuse, a lot of challenges, a lot of trauma. And that's something that we had to go through a lot of therapy to work on. And obviously we learned how to like heal ourselves as we became adults. But, you know, we don't want to just paint it like every single thing was just bad from the orphanage. I would say maybe like 90% was bad.
Yeah, a lot. And going back to the food thing and how that affected us trauma-wise, where when we came to the States, we would just eat a lot because we never know when our next meal was going to be.
It was like nonstop.
Yeah, and it's a thing that I know both you and I struggle with it, where because it's a trauma thing, a trauma response in the back of your mind. Well, is there going to be enough food? But we know that there is, but because we've experienced that, and we have to like continuously like teach ourselves, food is going to be there. Right, you're going to have food.
It's like there's a lot of scarcity still when it comes to food. We think that I literally was just telling her, like when I was eating, I was telling myself actually, and I was like, how it's okay, like food is always gonna be here. It's not gonna run away. I had to have this little pep talk with myself. So
yeah, that's just one of those.
It's funny, but so anyways, anything else you want to?
No, I think that's pretty much it. And of course there's gonna be more times where we're gonna think of other stuff that we're gonna add to the story, but this was definitely heavy. We've been through a lot. We've been through a lot of heavy things, and the fact that we're still standing and thriving and living and breathing is such a blessing. It's such a blessing. We're so thankful to be here, and we're thankful for you guys, you know, watching this and listening to our story and being part of this. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, and all the positive feedback. We really appreciate it. Any questions you guys have, feel free to ask us. We're always here. Our doors are open. We're not going to judge you.
Thank you. Till next time, don't forget to subscribe, follow,
like,
and share.
And share.